Hi guys, I'm Mike.
And I'm Stephen.
And this is Indy Fanatics, your home for IndyCar content with weekly podcasts and feature videos. Welcome back to the channel and to another feature video. Last time out was part 2 of our Safety in Indycar series, so if you haven't already, check that one out. Don't forget, if there is a driver, team or topic you'd like us to look at in the future, comment below.
But today we conclude our series on safety in IndyCar with looking at how it developed through the 2000s into current day, where it would be perceived as the gold standard for safety in motorsports around the world. So here it is, part 3, becoming the gold standard. A warning ahead of viewing that there may be some images and videos of crashes that may disturb viewers, but were included to help show the tragic past of the sport.
Last time out, we left you at the tragic accidents of Gonzalo Rodriguez and Greg Moore. One of those incidents in Gonzalo Rodriguez led to another important safety feature being introduced, and that was the HANDS device. Developed by Dr. Robert Hubbard after an idea put forward to him by his brother-in-law and former racing driver, Jim Downing. Sadly, the first iteration put forward to CART came from before Rodriguez's death, but it was just too big to fit in the cars. Post Rodriguez's death, Olvi and Tremmel were determined to work with Dr. Hubbard to find a working solution, and they did. The resulting device was found when tested to reduce the forces on the neck by 40 to 60%, which was a significant improvement. CART was the first series to make the HANDS device mandatory, and the rest of the motorsport world followed, as it is now universally used.
The next part of the Rapid Response documentary heads to the Texas Motor Speedway in 2001. It was the first time in racing at the Speedway, and a couple of accidents happened in practice, with the drivers reporting they didn't know how they crashed. And a report of the drivers getting out the car and feeling dizzy led to Olvi investigating further into why the crashes may have happened. After finding out the G-forces the drivers were going through, he found that they were so significant that it was pushing the drivers to the point of blackout. After calling a drivers meeting with the 22 drivers, 20 of the drivers reported to have suffered the symptoms of the effects of the high G-forces. Off the back of this information, the race was cancelled. A very unpopular decision, and a race that caused a lot of problems for CART, but a decision that was 100% the correct one, as safety should always come first.
The accident that Rapid Response finishes with, and the incident that shows how far the safety team had come in terms of saving drivers' lives, was Alex Zanardi's. A horrific crash that led to double amputation on Alex, but he only survived due to procedures put in place, the staff and expertise of those staff in how they effectively responded to the crash in front of them. Zanardi's story after the crash is truly inspirational. He went back to the track to complete the 17 laps he did not complete on the day. He raced in the DTM with success and went on to be a multi-gold medal Paralympian, an incredible human being whose life was saved by fellow incredible human beings that day. Though that is where the Rapid Response documentary ends, that's not where the story of Dr. Steve Olvi and Dr. Terry Tremmel end. Two men who still to this day have an impact on improving safety within the sport, with Terry having a more active role out of the two now in the series. They are certainly two men who have defined safety within IndyCar for the better. Steve Edwards, another name who played such a key role, especially in the early days of the safety team. And every single person who has been a member of the safety team are true heroes in the series, and their work cannot be underappreciated.
It is just these guys' ability to go above and beyond the call of duty, to push the boundaries and excel in their field, that benefited the sport and the drivers. An example of this is Dr. Terry Tremmel and how he helped drivers rehabilitate. Some drivers couldn't afford the therapy or didn't even have somewhere decent to recover, so Terry offered up his basement and would be in charge of their recovery. One of the regular visitors was Tony Kanaan. TK affectionately called Tremmel's basement a torture chamber and jokingly remarks not to visit Terry after sustaining an injury, as he will hurt you. He recalls a 2003 incident at the Twin Ring Motegi race where he broke his wrist. He wouldn't let anyone touch him for 4 days till he returned to Indianapolis so he could be treated by Tremmel. The accident happened 3 weeks before Indianapolis, and outside the sport, there is no way he would have recovered to be able to race after breaking his wrist. But Terry pushed the boundaries and got a carbon fibre cast for Tony, which restricted the movement he couldn't do, but allowed him freedom of movement of what he could do. He raced the 500 and finished third that year. A pretty incredible show of how medical science was developing.
Before Rapid Response was released in 2019, there was a documentary made in 2017 by the same production team called Yellow, 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 and although it is released before, it almost is a natural sequel to Rapid Response, catching up with how the safety team had continued to develop into what is arguably the gold standard for safety in any category of motorsports. The documentary is a detailed look at the safety team, whose main sponsor at the time was Holmatro, though it has had a number of different sponsors over the years, including current sponsor American Medical Response. One of the main focus figures of the documentary is Mike Yates, the now retired manager of track safety operations. Indycar still to this day is one of the only motorsport series that has a dedicated safety team. They have 3 trucks that go to every race. Mike details who makes up the crew of those trucks. The driver is the crew leader. In the front with him is Paramedic 1, and in the back is Firefighter 1 and 2. Michael Carey, crew leader for Safety Team 1, then details the process the team goes through when arriving at a track to make sure it's safe and fit for purpose. From the early days of when Steve Edwards and Steve Olvey were just starting to form structure to the safety team, the contrast in how professional the setup now is and how well equipped they are for accidents is incredible to see. The sponsor Holmatro work in partnership to provide tools for the safety team, and if needed on review of incidents can work to create new tools to assist in driver recovery and extraction. After the early days of sometimes struggling to build the relationships with the medical and safety crew at each individual track, the current safety team have a close and strong relationship with each individual track's paramedics, firefighters and doctors.
The 3 trucks have 3 key areas to attend to when an accident happens: the impact point, the car at its resting point after the crash, and the debris field. The truck closest to the car will head straight there, and the paramedic will assess the driver and whether he will need assistance to be removed from the car. Firefighter 1 goes to the accident with a pressurized water container to put out any fire risk at the car, and Firefighter 2 goes with a 5-gallon oil dry container to best contain any oil leaks to the car. The truck at the impact point's crew leader then assesses the impact point and any damage sustained to the barrier or fencing, and then coordinates with the relevant local resources to fix anything that needs repairing. The 3rd truck at an incident pulls up at the car, and if no further help is required, they will work their way back to the impact point, clearing the debris along the way. Outside of the 3 truck teams, the doctor on site arrives in a separate truck and basic life support is administered by the safety team, and anything more severe is deferred to the local paramedics and medical director. This is a highly efficient process that prioritizes the safety of the driver, then enables the quickest return to green racing conditions in the event of any accidents.
The next person of note introduced to the documentary is Jeff Horton, who is the Director of Engineering and Safety for Indycar. His job is after the crash to analyse the impact and collect the data from the accident to stockpile it so it can help in assisting understanding of how cars will react in crashes and how to make them safer. It has come a long way since the basic crash simulators and black box recorders in the 90s mentioned in part 2 of the series, and one such improvement in technology is custom-made ear accelerometers. These sensors can pick up detailed readings from a driver and the forces enacted on the head during a crash. Jeff and his team now have data that comes through where graphs can accurately detail where the impact occurred on a car and which parts of the car made contact with the wall, as well as detailing how many Gs the crash was. Efficient will be a word used a lot when talking about the safety team now, but is the most fitting as the team from the track responders to the off-track analyzers are a well-oiled and smooth running machine. The safer barrier, mentioned last episode as one of the key areas of safety that Henry Bock had an integral part in studying and creating, is a wall of foam and steel tubing that circles the outside of the track and helps absorb the Gs in a crash. It has made a huge impact in managing the forces experienced on a car and driver during a crash, and therefore resulting in making the driver safer during an accident.
Medical consultant Dr. Terry Tremmell works with Horton in analysing the crash data and can understand its effects on the body, and can even assess from the readings what crashes are likely to cause certain injuries. The analysis of data means that any relevant information can be passed on to the nurses and doctors. Altogether, they ensure that the driver's welfare is better looked after, with their best information available to the right people. From the days of little research, the team is now constantly reviewing data and conducting studies to find new ways to make the cars safer and put it into practice. From the documentary, safety is something IndyCar clearly takes pride in, being a big priority in the sport. An example of this would be an accident that saw Justin Wilson lose his life. After being struck in the head by a piece of debris, it led to a study and introduction of the aeroscreen. Though Justin's accident happened in 2015, extensive research and testing was undertaken to decide on the aeroscreen over the halo, which is used in Formula 1. In 2020, it was introduced, and it shows that they were continually working on solutions to improve safety.
The main accident that Yellow focuses on is James Hinchcliffe's crash at Indianapolis practice in 2015. The focus of the safety team had been to try and resolve an issue that was seeing cars get airborne in single car crashes. As that issue was resolved, James was out running in practice when his front right rocker failed, which led to his car going straight into the wall. When the safety team arrived, they found that part of the suspension had pierced the pod and impaled Hinchcliffe through the left glute and out through his right hip. The safety team, with the tools available and experience and know-how, were able to extract Hinch from the car. He was rushed to hospital where he would be stabilised. The vehicle made its way to Jeff Horton, where they analysed the car and the crash, and literally within 24 hours had made an addition to the wishbone that, in the unlikely event it did fail, would slide along the tub rather than piercing it. The word efficient springs to mind again, but it's amazing how quick the turnaround the team made to changing something on the car to make it safer. And as a direct result of this accident and Mike Yates' analysis with Jeff, they returned to the findings to Holmatro, who then made new custom tools to assist with cutting into the tub so they could easily assess the condition of the driver if the unfortunate situation of something piercing the tub were to happen again.
Those last two crash examples show that no matter whether it's a quick fix in terms of the adjustment made to the wishbone or longer term in regards to the development and introduction of the aeroscreen, the team will find a solution and, to the best of their ability, will always try to make the car and circuits as safe as possible for the drivers. The current cars and drivers' aids make the series today the safest it has ever been. The safety team on track and the likes of Tremor and Offit all work as a cohesive unit that deeply care about the safety of the drivers, who will do everything in their power to ensure that they can race hard, but also as safe as possible. Unfortunately, when driving at the speeds that motorsports race at, it will never be completely safe.
No, and unfortunately fatal accidents still occurred. With Justin Wilson's crash in 2015 we already mentioned, Dan Weldon in 2011, that year's Indy 500 winner, passed away at Vegas, Paul Dana in 2006 at Homestead Miami Speedway, and Tony Renner at Indianapolis in 2003. There have also been life-changing accidents that have occurred, with Dario Franchitti suffering a crash that ended his career in 2013 and Robert Wickens' crash in 2018 that paralysed him from the waist down. Motorsport will never be entirely safe. It is impossible for it to be. Most things in life come with an element of risk, and racing is no different. But through the journey of this series, we have seen just how far IndyCar has come in terms of safety being just an afterthought to what is now an incredibly professional team who do everything they can to keep drivers safe. This has come through the sheer determination of individuals like Steve Olvey and Terry Tremmell to do better, to not accept fatalities in the sport, to save people's lives. They may be doctors by trade, but they are also racing fans. And like Olvey had to endure with Vukovic, no one wants to see their heroes die. There are an incredible amount of people not even covered in the series, but have played a part in raising the safety standards to what it is today. The perfect thank you they need for their work probably couldn't be summed up much better than when James Hinchcliffe returned to the track after his accident, and a man who loves to talk was left speechless and could only hug Mike Yates, as that is the sheer gratitude these drivers have for the guys who saved their lives. It can always be better, but IndyCar and the safety team have certainly done an incredible job to help their drivers.
But that's it for the series. We hope you have enjoyed the look into safety in IndyCar following the path of Rapid Response and the Yellow documentaries. Both links on Amazon will be left in the description below, and we highly recommend you watching them. Don't forget, if there is a driver, team or topic you'd like us to look at in the future, comment down below.
And if they're new around here and haven't done so already,
they can like, subscribe and ding that bell.
Ding it! So for now, you Indy fans, keep racing!